We are the mighty few who greet the peaks and valleys of the Bighorns. Elk echoing in the canyons is our favorite song. As the sun hides behind the skyline, it is the stars that remind us of who we are. Molded from the mud, First Maker breathing life into us, a perfect product from our mothers and grandmothers, remaining the same as yesterday, today, and tomorrow. We are the mighty few. Our roots are planted within the Kicked-in-the-Belly band of the Apsáalooke Nation, also known as the Crow Nation. This is a story about connection, connecting a path from our ancestors forward to our descendants, our connection to this land and all life within it. It's about the connection that threads through us all as a community, and the strength we have in that unity to determine for ourselves how to thrive into the future. We are the Apsáalooke, children of the large-beaked bird, today also commonly known as the crow. In the beginning, Itchikbalia, First Maker, created us from earth, brought up from below the waters by a small duck in her webbed feet. First Maker gave us the gift of language and song and taught us how to live in a good way and respectfully care for all life, what we know as Imajigatua. Long ago, we split off from our Hidatsa relatives in search of the sacred tobacco seed and a place to plant Itchichia, given to us long ago by the Star people. After much traveling from the tree country near the Great Lakes area, we found our promised land in and around Bazawachawo, the Bighorn Mountains, in a place now known as Montana and Wyoming. It is here we were shown the sacred tobacco plant and its ceremonies that would help us prosper as a people. Our homeland stretches between 4 poles. North from the Bear Paw Mountains, east to the Black Hills, south to the headwaters of the Wind River, and west to the Gallatin Range. It is here that our people became Beluga, our side, where we flourished, stewarding this land and all beings that in turn provided us with what we needed. When we acquired horses from the Shoshone, we became an accomplished horse people. We could follow and hunt bison more efficiently, travel further and faster, and our warrior culture thrived. As predicted in visions from our leaders, settlers came westward and our lives changed forever. During the mid to late 1800s, the once plentiful bison became almost extinct, food was scarce, European diseases killed more than half of our people, homesteaders moved in, and threats from enemy tribes pressured the Apsáalooke from the east and south. Several treaties were signed with the US government that radically reduced our territorial land and restricted the Apsáalooke to a reservation, Anuch Kago, living within the line. During the late 1800s and early 1900s, the Crow experienced extreme and devastating change imposed upon them by the US government, whose strategy was to weaken Native people and assimilate them into the now dominant Euro-American society. With the Dawes Act of 1887, the federal government divided our reservation land into individual plots to encourage us to practice agriculture and break up our communal camps and nomadic ways. Traditional social gatherings were discouraged, and Crow cultural and spiritual practices were forbidden. Our children were forcibly removed from their families to attend boarding schools, and further attempts to erase our customs and language and learn white ways. This was a time of survival, and the impacts of federal policies on our people are still present today, as we struggle with intergenerational trauma, systemic cycles of poverty, and separation from our communal social structures. But Through our Apsaloga strengths of perseverance, adaptability, and vigilant leadership, we have maintained tribal sovereignty, and many of our traditional lifeways still continue. At the same time, we have found ways to incorporate learned skills to best serve our people in the 21st century. The Apsaloga Nation is made up of 6 districts. One of the least populated is the District of the Mighty Few, Igyoshtagat Batchaja. We are Mountain Crow, from the Kicked-in-the-Belly band of Apsaloga. Our population is dispersed across a large expanse in the shadow of the Bighorn Mountains and on the banks of the Little Bighorn River. The small town of Wyola is our community hub. The Mighty Few earned and have proven our name in a variety of ways, from arrow throwing competitions, resilience through tough times, and as the protectors of the southern flank of Crow Country.
Wyola is called Igyoshtagat Batchaja, home of the Mighty Few. I know I couldn't live anywhere else. I feel like it's majestic here. Noa, Bachbag, Ichiksuk Batchaji. This land is sacred and it is very beautiful. And the water is one of our sacred elements of life. Bilewachbag. It's called sacred waters.
We're mountain crows. This is where we're from. When we leave out of state or we go somewhere, we see the Bighorn Mountains and we know that's where our home is and we're coming home and there's no place like home, you know.
This is just a big community of family. You know, my kids, they ride horses all the time. My son usually walks up the river every day. And he just starts a fire right when he gets home and he cooks his fish. It's just very free here.
This red rock and soil is deep in my identity and my soul. The Mighty Few, Igyoshtagat Batchaja. We have our roots in the Kicked-in-the-Belly band of the Apsarka Indians. Being the smallest of the bands, we take pride in having held our own and taken charge of our destiny.
We were the battleground of protecting, the southern flank of Crow Country. That was the job of Igyoshtagat Batchaja. The Shoshones and the Arapahoes and the Lakotas and all of them wanting to come and have access to this beautiful land, and it was the Mighty Few who held them off.
Before there was very many cars, they all depended on horses or wagons to go any place. They grew their gardens, they raised their own cattle. They survived like that. And people would say around spring, the Wyola district, those that are few, we'll go and check on them, see how they're doing, and they'd come and they'd be prospering, and they banded together, they helped each other,
Like every community, ours continues to evolve. When I was a youngster, our community was a thriving little commercial center for our end of the valley, and then along come fast cars and good highways. Now we can get in the car and be off to one of the bigger towns north or south. So our local communities, a bank, a couple of hardware stores, I think 3 grocery stores, all of those are merely a dim memory to us. So now we're in a time where we have to rediscover how we function.
Wyola is geographically distanced from Crow Agency, our Crow Nation capital, which makes us isolated, but we have always proven to be self-sufficient. Many elements, including the previously mentioned policies and pressures on our identities and community-centric lifeways, have contributed to Wyola's lack of economic opportunities, a severe shortage of housing and basic services, and an urgent need to heal our community's spirit. Although the challenges are many, it is the might we rely on that keeps us moving forward.
I've been the head cook for about 4 years now at Wyola School. This is basically the only place that has employment is the school. If you have to work, you have to go either, to Hardin or Sheridan, which is 45-mile drive every day. And that's half your paycheck is gas now. There is a lot of community that wants to work that have kids, or some of them can't go that far, There's a lot of people that do want to move back, that moved away, but just can't because there's no housing. No one can have a place to come home to.
I'd like to see a clinic, fire station. We need things like that here. My mom's home burned down and we were helpless. And we needed a fire truck. And there was nothing at all. We just watched it just burn down.
We've lost the community social part that brings everybody in, and that isolation is having more and more effect on our families and our children, particularly, that people feel isolated and feel kind of caught in the whatever darkness they're experiencing in their lives.
There's a lot of, I guess you could say, past brokenness, just kind of like generation after generation. There's a lot of past trauma, people don't talk about it. It goes deep. Well, for my generation, I think is like a depression. There's a lot of, like drug abuse, alcoholism. You see like the grandparents raising the grandkids. I'm speaking from experience, from myself. I just completely changed my life, over like 15 years ago. It's like a generational curse. You have to be that one to break it.
Trauma does get passed down, especially with like the boarding schools. My grandma got sent to a boarding school. She ran away and went home. And she just always knew she wasn't gonna go back. So I think that trauma in our families, trauma passed down, has a lot to do with addiction too. Both my parents, I blame alcohol for dying. I could cry around like, oh, my parents did this, my parents did that, but they showed me how not to be, how to make better choices. I always think about how far I came, how things could have been but aren't. I love my community so much. I didn't ever want to move away. Our friends grow up to be family. All us kids used to go in front of the school and play like kick the can. We'd all saddle up horses in the morning in the summertime. But my friends are still here. I guess half of them, after a lot of things, after addictions, caught some of them. I don't know what happened to, or why some of them had their addictions, or some of them just couldn't talk about what happened in their life. When I look at these kids, and I want to see them succeed, to grow up and have kids, and see their grandkids too. Our community is family, and we watch out for all the kids, not just our own.
Some of the challenges that we have in Wyola is that we are one of the smallest, if not the smallest, district on the reservation. We are often left to have to fend for ourselves. The other side of that same coin is we have a distinct advantage of being small enough that our intimacy factor is really great. And if we can unify around that, we can reclaim that identity of being the powerful, mighty few.
I think that the old kicked in the bellies and mountain crows who originally settled here were imbued with a cultural determination to determine our own future and the future of our homeland, the social, cultural, and physical ecosystem that it defines us.
In 2018, community members established the Wyola Development Fund, which is a nonprofit entity with a mission to initiate economic and community programs and projects that serve the needs of the Mighty Few community from within.
The first thing we did to kind of understand where the community was at was we did this survey, and we surveyed all of the households about what are the things you think about the community, your place in the community, all of these kinds of questions. And people said, we don't know each other, we don't like each other anymore. We have petty things that have happened in the past that because there's no bigger thing for us to do together, we hold on to that. And we're all isolated and suffering alone. We had some resources come in through housing. Rather than hiring outside contractors to go to, this house and fix this, let's buy the supplies and materials, find out who knows how to do what. We'll do a community service exchange where this person can get their needs met if they help this person do something. And in that way, create the process for people to be working alongside each other and accepting help and giving help in a way that everybody's eager to do. The first place we started was to clean up our town. Our first volunteers were my mother, she was 86 at the time, some other elders who were in their 70s, and they were out there with their rakes and their buckets, and carloads full of younger people would stop. They're like, they shouldn't be working. It's like, you want to come and help? And they're like, yeah, go park. And then here comes a passel of kids and families, and it really was the elders, by virtue of their own modeling, that brought the others. This community cleaned up, and they hauled out 300 tons of debris from Wyola. And it was so significant for people to have an organized way to invest in each other personally around things that help lift the burden of stress, just the problems that we bear. It's kind of reduced some of those barriers. Now you see people kind of giving each other the, smile, wave, and engaging.
Community members also work together as volunteers to clean up and create regulations for their local waste dump, which previously was regularly burned, creating airborne pollution in the area.
I think that's what started, was having community coming together and knocking out these little goals. This is what created unity.
These activities coming on, these new projects, the community could get involved when needed. They all get together and they attend these meetings, and even if there's signs or text messages or Facebook, then we'll know what's going on in our district.
It seems like everybody is really proud of what's happening to Wyola. I've heard compliments about how Wyola is keeping their town clean and helping one another.
We were meeting continuously over here at the hall, and they have in there the lists of all of the clan associations of the people in this district. We said, what if we took those symbols and we painted them in the hall to represent the current and the historical presence of people that we care about, that cared about us, that we would have the symbols of that, where we celebrate birthdays and we have feeds and political events and so forth. The kids were the ones that etched them out, all of the designs. And so then the grandparents started coming and they started taping them off. Then the artists came out. And then all of a sudden you could see it. When you could see the colors, it was just like magnets. All of the people who have any kind of artistic inclination, whether they're beaters, painters, whatever, came out. And that place was full of music, full of positive energy that was tied with art.
The best thing I liked was helping paint, talking to the people in the community and having little potlucks. It was really fun.
They had each clan paint their own emblem up there to be proud of their clan, to be proud to be an Apsaluga. Later on, they're going to have a storytelling session in the evening. They're going to have members of each clan sit there in front of the children and relate stories to them.
The first event that we had there, we had a slideshow presentation to kind of share the needs assessment back with the community. And the presentation was over, the food was gone, and one of the community members came up and she said, look around you. And I looked and there were still tables full of people sitting there drinking coffee, visiting. She said, this has never happened where the event's long over, the food's been put away, and people are sitting around visiting. She said, this space is so beautiful. It feels good here. It feels good to be together in this space. We had a poster contest and there was a 12-year-old boy. He submitted this awesome poster. This is the image that's tied with representing this district. We want to have this Crow warrior presiding over the things that are happening here. This is our history, this is our place, and this is a part of who we are.
When approved by the community, this flag became the first customized flag to symbolize the distinct history of the district within the Crow Nation. Following an induction ceremony, this flag is now displayed in the Crow Nation Tribal Council chambers to represent the Mighty Few district.
Wyola is a really small and isolated community, and a lot of the things that other places have, we don't have here. One of the things is law enforcement or public safety. And so we feel that isolation and the risk of our population, trafficking, and we have, people that are coming to hunt our children. The only clear walking place for our women and kids and young athletes is out to the interstate, which is where, there's a lot of menacing things happening there. We decided a walking path would create a safe, enclosed place for our women and children to walk, and, athletes, if they want to run or jog or whatever, they don't have to go to the interstate. They don't have to be put at risk. Then we started talking about the things that it does to help people get out of their homes, and it really creates an opportunity for people to be together in a very just natural, accessible way. The walking path is really representative of doing what we can do and not being arrested by all of the things we don't have or we can't access. One of our senators, Male Bear, he's a heavy equipment operator, and he said, well, let's just cut the path. Then we have now community members that have come out to spread the gravel. It's slow, but what's important is that it's the members of the community that are doing it themselves. Our population is mostly grandparents and children. The children, their lives are small to the housing cluster if they don't have people who can take them to the mountains and, do lots of vigorous stuff with them. Rather than going all the way up the canyon to our traditional plants, he said, what about if we planted those trees and brought that back here? Because a lot of the farming and stuff around here has eliminated the natural growth of, chokecherry tree clusters and all of these kinds of things. We had an individual, Jamie, who came out of the Department of Natural Resources, and she said, all of those things, indigenous plants to Montana, we have access to, and we're like, oh, we'd like some chokecherries, buffalo berries, some plums, all of those kinds of things. And she was like, we can bring it. It really becomes a meaningful resource for the community to get reacquainted with the parts of our life that were commonplace to our parents and grandparents that our children and grandchildren no longer have access to through no fault of their own.
It's important to know about our landscape for two really important reasons. We develop a real kinship in the old-time Crow spirit of it. All of these places and rocks and trees and things have spirits of their own, and they can speak to us. All of us will benefit by coming to understand that. It also formulates their identity. It seeps into our souls and our sense of who we are. The more we find unity in this landscape, the better the earth is and the better we all are going to be.
Horses are pretty powerful for Native people. Ever since I can remember, I've been riding horses, and my grandpa, his name was Charlie Red Wolf, and he was pretty much well known of his horsemanship, and he used to wake us up at 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock in the morning, and we training him to be a fast horse. We take care of him. And growing up here in Wyola, and we used to ride to town, and we throw arrows. That was one of the fun times I had been growing up around here, just riding horses.
Wyola is such a horse culture community. At one time, Wyola by itself had 7 Indian relay teams come out of here.
Indian Relay pays tribute to the cultural and practical significance of the horse among Northern Plains tribes. This high-intensity bareback race requires the athletic agility and fearlessness of both the horse and the rider. Indian Relay dates back over 400 years, and in recent decades has been gaining mainstream visibility and popularity in the Western US and Canada.
We have horse knowledge in this community that's unparalleled. When we started talking about what are the ways that we can create the infrastructure to support the life and the livelihood and the engagement of the whole community, we had to be thinking of the people in town, but also those community members who rarely come through town. This excitement started building, and they said we could have last chance relay here before the snows come, that they would come to Wyola and have their final race of the season. So we're like, okay, so not everybody is into races, but people bring their kids. What are the kids gonna do while the races are going on? And we had a group of lads with us in a pickup. We were driving this trail and said, what about a BMX park? Keeps them away from the road and keeps them safe, but keeps them occupied in a healthy, activity. We turned to the boys in the pickup and said, if we were to do that, what would be some of the things would be important to you that it would have? And they were like, make them really tall so we can really jump off there, which immediately led to a conversation about we really need a clinic in this town. It's not a big commercial pari-mutuel racing track. It's a neighborhood track intended to serve the needs of the community. Some of it is economic, but then we started talking about the needs that our children and our families have for a pathway to regain our wholeness spiritually, emotionally, and so forth. And those disconnections that we have from the land, from the resources, from our environment and our ways of life that kept our people going for so many generations, we're getting disconnected from that. And it's hurt our spirit, and it's hurt our families and our children. And so when we talked about how do we use that infrastructure to serve the well-being of our community, it was like we could do equine therapy there when the races aren't going. We want our people to be healthy and motivated and excited for themselves and their life and who they are. And those things currently don't exist in a way that everybody has access to. And we're trying to change that.
In our area, there's a lot of youth that are horsemen. We need to bring that up. Knowing how to handle a horse, knowing how to take care of a horse, we kind of help them at the basic level as far as helping themselves, helping another person.
I got a grandson. He's 10 years old, and he's Shetland right there, and I'm teaching him now. So maybe someday that he would pass it on to his kids too. There's a track building right now for the community. And I'm pretty happy that they're doing that for the kids, you know.
When we started talking about rodeo, then people want to talk about powwow. So the vision here is that we could do markets. People could come and sell their wares or food. We could have a powwow here. We could have arrow throwing tournaments, and it would be small, intimate, but manageable for us to do ourselves with the materials we have available to us. This whole section right here has some really important implications for us that are not only economic, but also about bringing people together in ways that we naturally want to congregate that just don't exist.
Oh, I grew up in Pryor, Montana, community similar to Wyola. Today I'm helping some young steer riders and future bull riders get their technique down, giving them a little bit of guidance, both spiritually and mentally. We put a horse track in Wyola, you know, people take so much pride in this community. It will just add to it, you know, and community members get to come together and visit with each other. It puts Wyola on a map too. I mean, a lot of people like coming here. I like coming here, so it's a good place to be.
I think our youth really need strength to keep them motivated to make themselves better in life and enjoy life. The identity is there. It makes them proud. Even our name makes them proud. Mighty few.
At the public school in Wyola, which offers kindergarten through 8th grade, Apsáalooke language and traditional songs, art, and lifeways are incorporated into the curriculum in each grade level.
They have the cultural program. I think this year they taught them how to butcher a deer. She teaches the girls and the boys how to dance. They have their drum group going.
They sing their own district song in the mornings. That makes us really proud, and I'm thankful for that. And those beliefs hold us together.
She does teach them the language. I never was taught it either. And I'm glad that my kids are being taught it so they know. You know, it's part of our ancestors, our people before us. You know, it's who we are, and we can't lose it. You're lost if we don't know who we are.
In my father's generation, people were persuaded that you had to forsake your Apsáalooke language if you were going to be successful in the greater global community. Now we know better than that. That we can speak English and Apsáalooke, we know that. So let's make that happen. Let's encourage it, but allow those values of identity and culture to be relevant and strong, not only today, but into the future. Youngsters today have a daily living culture that is very contemporary. I want them to have that uninterrupted sense of purpose and community and identity. As Apsáalooke people, we have got to find a way to knit together a continuity from the sacred tobacco to the 22nd century, the 25th century. What would we want our community to be?
For the kids, I want to see more activities for them. You know, kind of have like workshops for the kids, welding, trainings, you know, kind of preparing them. Because, you know, when I was younger, we didn't have that. You know, we had to be creative out there in the country. We had to. Right now, they're kind of more social media and they don't socialize like in person.
The Mighty Few Youth Group, led by Harold Melbear Stone, provides various events and activities that support the well-being of the area's youth. Group outings allow the kids to connect to the mountains, waters, plants, and animals of their homelands. They also experience a youth rodeo consistent with the Western lifeway of the area. The group also provides an annual Christmas gift event for every child in the community, and a new facility in the center of town is being developed to host easily accessible indoor activities that children can walk to year-round.
We're blessed to have a facility given to us right there in town. When this facility is together, we are going to bring some curriculum where on a Monday night they can learn how to bead. On a Tuesday night, they can learn how to cook. Whatever they gather during the summer, they can can it, how to make arrows, how to tie the drum, woodwork. We can have these teachers, our elders in our community, teach our kids.
You know, I see all these kids every day. I feed them every day. And just coming in and seeing them and seeing their face and having their presence, like you could feel their happiness. I really love these kids so much. I've lost friends from addiction, and some of their kids go here. And I see these kids and I really hope, you know, they don't get that addiction. And I really hope they know that they're loved, you know, and they don't have to go that path, that there is a lot more to this life. When I look at these kids, I hope the best for every one of them, that they choose to go on to school, to go to work. I want to see them succeed, you know. Home will always be here. When you're ready, it's here. And nothing's gonna change that.
There's a lot of truth that our young people carry within them, that they don't have a platform to speak that truth into the decision-making of what happens next. We have an incredible opportunity to listen and to make the decisions and the systems that give them opportunity to put their own mojo into the mix and into action in ways that will be transformational, transforming, you know, the way things were, coming out of trauma, coming out of kind of an absence of opportunity into activating that capacity and potential within all of the generations that are here.
We need smart, capable, and optimistic leadership. That's not automatic. It takes everything from knowledge of economics and finance to management of land resources, community dynamics. All of those kinds of skill sets are very important to us.
If we collaborate, it's powerful. We can bring economics here. We can be self-sufficient here. So we need to help ourselves, help our youth, help our future generation. We can't rely on the tribe all the time. We've got to stand up and get up and move on our own.
All of our legislators work together as a team, and it's really been an advantage for us as a district because we're able to get more of our needs met through the relationship, the positive relationship with the agency and the resources of the nation, but we're relying on each other to be the workhorses in the process.
I think the core value and skill that we have to have is self-reliance. By that I mean from the individual, the person, to the community, and then to the larger community, of which we are part, by the way. We have got to recover the skill and capacity to implement. We must return to the Absaraka and kicked in the belly ethic of being in charge, being confident, and thinking ahead.
In 2015, Mighty Fu district senators proposed, and the tribal legislatures subsequently passed, a bill to create the Mighty Fu Community Development Authority as a tribally designated entity. The Development Authority exists to foster communication and collaboration between the Mighty Few district members, district senators, and the tribal executive branch. These coordinated efforts aim to improve local infrastructure, including housing, services, and local economic drivers. In the summer of 2023, the Mighty Few Community Development Authority was activated through a community process. An election was held, and the inaugural Board of Commissioners was established.
In this election, people did not come forward and say, pick me, pick me. The question was asked around the community about, given these standards of leadership and character, who would be good? Who would be a good person? And people reflected on that, and they put forward names of people that they felt were thoughtful, that were collaborative, that were deep thinkers, that were trustworthy and honest in their character. And then those people were spoken to about, this is what the community sees in you. Will you come forward and accept this responsibility? And it's a new thing. It's a new thing. It's not a popularity contest. And in that, we've also talked about how do we include young people at those tables and in that conversation, because the young people are the ones who adopt those leadership traits.
I told them when they sworn me in, I'm going to do the best I can for my community. Being a leader to me is just everybody around me. You know, I would put them first. You know, I'm not getting paid for it. You know, I'm doing this out of, my heart and, for my community.
The community convenes regular meetings, open to all district members, to identify priority areas for community development, gauge members' interest to take action, and assign next steps for all projects. Lesley, who is a board member for the Wyola Development Fund, met with Grace to share how the organizations complement each other, allowing for Wyola's economy to grow in a way that works for the community.
So in Wyola, over here in the public sector, we have the U.S. Post Office. We have Wyola Elementary School, and the nonprofit sector is the Mighty Few Youth Group and the Wyola Development Fund. The Wyola Development Fund's mission is to operate as a nonprofit and to stimulate Wyola's community economy. So we have people in the community, hard workers, know how to do stuff, but we're not familiar with how to drive this machine. If we can understand this, we can drive hell out of it. This track represents a huge private sector stake. When we were originally starting, what people said, we need a laundromat, we need a gas station, we need a grocery store, and a coffee shop. In order to prompt those enterprises, you got to have individuals that are willing to say, I'll step up and take a $200,000 bank loan. And we weren't ready for that. But Wyola had 7 Indian relay teams, as little as we are. And it was like, oh my God, this is what we know how to do. This is an economic enterprise that our community members inherently have a powerful knowledge and history and experience to bring to bear to make it successful. And we don't need to have external expertise to tell us how to make it work. It's just like when we got the horse, we learned how to ride hell out of it, We did a lot of things that were innovative and responsive to the setting that we were in. In all this planning and collaborating and unifying, it's going to help us understand that when the Development Authority gets money, is not going to shortchange anybody else. We all need to work together to now go bring down the buffalo. We can build cooperation, collaboration, because we will not be under the strain and the stress anymore of trying to survive, because we're in survival mode. But our community's spirit needs to have visual indicators that we are not where we were. Right. One of the things that, our Senator Mailbearer has been saying about the 3 strands, when you weave them together, they're really strong. We've never had that. And once we put that into place, there's going to be no stopping us. I really think that the next thing would be we'd have more opportunity than we have people. So we can meet on Sunday, potluck, we can workshop it, the priorities, identify who does what.
Mighty few will come from Crow warriors. We as a community, we still have that warrior blood, the warrior instinct in us to persevere through anything. There's few of us, but when we get together, we're dangerous. That's what my grandma always told me.
Our chief here, who is Crazy Head, he's very powerful. With the other warriors, they've had to fight off individuals that tried to come and steal, our horses and our goods, and they chased him off. There was just a few of us, and yet we overcame the obstacles that were in front of us. We've overcome our obstacles through working together. Eventually, we'll get what we're striving for.
A lot of the changes in the community, the cleaning, the new buildings, is just bringing our community together in unity, and they're proud of it.
This has been about strengthening the clarity of our community members' identity, tied with the history of our people that is not in a general sense, but our literal grandparents, great-grandparents, great-great-grandparents who lay here in these spaces that are still with us. We need to be connected to them. It's our leadership, our horsemanship, our culture. That's part of the identity of our community historically and what we're reviving today.
We're proud to be from here. The Creator put us in the right place. When I'm out there with my family or if I'm by myself, I pray, bring good things to our communities. That's always on my heart all the time.